ゼント欲しがらへん子供なんかおるかい。
Welcome to the world of digital purchases, old man. We opened this Christmas episode that, yes, we are skipping ahead one episode into, since we did screw up last year by not covering the season 1 Christmas episode when it was more appropriate, so we'll make up for it this year. But yeah, the cold opener for this one featured a flashback to the Seno family. Well, can already tell this one is gonna bring the feels. And sure enough, Aiko had already planned a special surprise for her parents by inviting her mom over without telling either parent that they weren't going to spend Christmas Eve together.
Yeah, I'd love to help you, Aiko, but, you know, you're kind of a heretic being a witch and all that, so yeah, f*** you.
I'm not even really kidding, as all of the witches in the show had some pretty cursed holidays. Starting with Majorika, as all of her Ojamajo would be busy for most of the eve like Aiko with her parents, and thus couldn't spend time with her. Fortunately, they did at least want to give Hana a good first Christmas experience, so they agreed to throw a private party at the Mahodo later that night. With that, we would then cut between everyone's Christmas activities that at least start off strong for each, starting with Doremi going to her sister's piano recital. Next, in her case, I think you have to take a few zeros off that budget. Thus, she decided to break the ice through the power of secondhand cringe. Nah, but seriously, it was effective in cooling Pop down through a sudden burst of frustration that gave her a reason to let all of her emotions out and thus dissipate her nerves. It was a genuinely great scene, with Pop later even realizing what her sister had done for her and thanking her.
Doremi, 今夜はステーキにするわ。
Man, you know, that was a nice little Christmas special to bring in the holidays and all that, and, there's still more? But they did the whole 90s jump in freeze frame thing, really? Okay. Well, anyway, after a brief stopover at the Mahodo, each of the Ojamajo went their separate ways and met with their respective parents, which was when this episode kinda fell apart for me. Yeah, on top of most of these stories, just not exactly winning me over, the fact that they took away time from the main story, at least based on the cold opener about Aiko's family, kind of hurt this episode for me. I mean, right off the bat, we were gripped into the Blue Ojamajo story, with her welcoming her mom into town, and then very awkwardly inviting her to their apartment to wait for the father. It was very clear that her mom didn't want to see her dad, but she sucked it up for the sake of the daughter, which is just plain good drama, and I would have liked to seen it fleshed out a little more. Unfortunately, all of the Ojamajo needed their Christmas moments, no matter how undercooked they were. Starting with Opu, both she and her father managed to take some time off from their respective jobs, meaning that after a long while, and especially after the previous holiday special, they could finally have a family dinner together, and a Christmas one at that. All was good until a certain green monster appeared, and no, not that one. Though to be fair, Mazuruka was better than this one. But yeah, after not appearing since the first episode of the season for reasons, the original antagonist of the show had returned and participated in some very unlawful business practices when she suddenly called Opu in for a gig that she didn't agree to. Lady, I'll admit, I don't know all of the fine details about the entertainment industry, but I'm pretty sure you can't force your non-public service workers to come in on days in which they've already called in for vacation. Really, Opal was completely in the right to be upset at her mom, since they had absolutely no obligation to agree to work on Christmas Eve. Now granted, this did lead to an interesting revelation that Opu's father tried to talk her out of becoming a child star by rightfully pointing out how much it would eat into her social and family life. Though again, in the case of the latter, this time was much more the fault of the mother for not being able to just say no to the toad. That said, even that could have been forgiven if we had just gotten a scene of Mrs. Segawa coming in and apologizing for making such a short-sighted mistake. And what do we get instead? Well, we got Mr. Segawa coming in to acknowledge Opu's choice and encouraging her to keep up the good work, including taking this sudden gig from Mazuruka on Christmas frickin' Eve.
I'm sorry, what?
Y'all couldn't have missed the target harder if you had been blindfolded. Alright, maybe the next story featuring Hazuki will work out just a little better and... Done! So, yeah, Hazuki's segment involved more antics with her mom and her gaslighting tactics. Crazy thought, but maybe I should have tried to fix some of these issues back in episode 11. And as if that weren't bad enough, this whole conflict that involved her not wanting to wear a pretty hideous dress to a celebrity Christmas party ended up turning into a repeat of the second episode of the first season. Yeah, it just so happened, Doremi had stopped by to mooch off some free steak from her friend's party, and Hazuki suggested that they pull the old switcheroo again, so that she could be spared wearing her ugly dress, and Doremi would supposedly get some free steak. But yeah, if you know the show by now. Though I do also feel bad for Hazuki, as no matter what, she has to live with two helicopter parents, as her dad wanted her to play the violin in front of their guest, even though Doremi, as Hazuki, just wanted to get some food first. Granted, it was clever that she got around this issue by suggesting that she play the piano instead, as she did at least have some experience with it. Then, hey, this also could have acted as a nice moment where she could have further rekindled her love for the piano and
Nope.
instead, her music was played over a montage of everyone else's activities before cutting back to the obvious punchline for our lead Ojamajo.
お願いします。
ごめん、今のでおしまいなんだ。
Fortunately, we did kind of end this episode, not on a high note, by at least going back to Aiko's story. Having been held up by some last-minute Christmas shopping traffic, Mr. Seno was running late getting home, and Aiko's mom needed to catch her train back to Osaka. Thus, while they didn't have time to have dinner together, the daughter at least wanted the parents to meet, so she called in a favor from Doremi, who, yeah, ended up pulling double duty in this show.
信号よ、青に捕まれ。
No, but that's really what should have happened on Christmas Eve of all boozy nights. But yeah, while still driving his taxi, Mr. Seno offered to take his ex to the train station, which of course led to an awkward, yet still very poignant exchange between the two. Like always, Aiko's family issues are one of the strongest aspects in the show, as they are portrayed very realistically. This included even the simple fact that this divorced couple was indeed incompatible, to the point that even some small chit-chat led to a pointless quarrel. And as had been established back in episode 20, they were likely always going to separate at some point, even if certain other events hadn't occurred. However, even if these parents couldn't always see eye to eye, that didn't mean that they ever lost sight of the most important thing in both of their lives, the love for their daughter, which would always remain a constant. This was just an amazing and beautifully directed scene all around, especially with all that snow, that, yeah, wasn't quite as much of a gut punch as episode 20, though really what is. And with that, the parents were able to leave on good terms, with Mr. Seno even offering to take Aiko to Osaka next time. Good stuff that even ended with a nice Christmas party with the Ojamajo, though Wahana managed to get a bunch of mittens for Christmas. Doremi never did get her steak because she's basically the show's Squidward. This was a bit of a mixed bag of goodies for the holidays. On the one hand, we got a nice gift in the form of more of Aiko's family drama, which, while a little played out by this point, was still nice to see. On the other hand, though, we also got some pure uncut coal in the form of the other vignettes. The main story does kind of make up for the other two, but not entirely, making for a bit of a meh holiday special. While it would have been nice to have gotten a little more with Aiko's family, it wasn't necessary, especially since we've already gotten several episodes dedicated to them at this point. Thus, even if the other Christmas stories were mediocre, it wouldn't have been that big a deal. However, these weren't just mediocre, they were pretty bad, for pretty much the same reason, as they both involved the Ojamajo giving in to the demands of the adults around them when they really shouldn't have. Sure, it was nice to see Ompu's dad approve of her being an idol, but by that same token, he should also support her when she doesn't want to work on the holidays, especially after that last Christmas special. Meanwhile, Hazuki, still giving in to her mom and her very manipulative tactics, is just plain wrong, but oh well, she got around it by just avoiding her family altogether. That's a great way of spending the holidays, right? I mean, yeah, I know a lot of adults who do that, but kids should be able to fully enjoy their time with their families, which both of these Ojamajo weren't able to. It was at least justified with Aiko, as it was continuing her parents' divorce storyline, but having a Christmas special where it's practically encouraged that you have to put up with some awkwardness with relatively healthy families...
I'm gonna do my own thing.
Thus, overall, while Aiko's segments were absolutely worth watching, and even a little bit of Doremi's steak trials, the other two stories just didn't put me in the Christmas spirit. You should always remember to keep those receipts handy, because some of this stuff is definitely worth returning. With that though, I hope you all will have some happy holidays. Make sure that Santa doesn't stinge out on your gifts, and unlike Doremi, be sure to eat your fill, be it steak, or personally with our family, we like to have turkey dinners. And until next time though, for now my friends, and if you'll excuse me, I gotta go defrost said birds for dinner. Oh boy, I'm not gonna have much space in my fridge for the next few days.